Welcome back to our kitchen, guys. Today we are going to take you along on a fun adventure where we make dandelion jelly. We make dandelion jelly every year. We've been doing that for about 5 years now. And so it has become a staple in our house, and we are going to take you along as we make our first batch for 2024. So, of course, we had to start off with a loaf of sourdough bread because we make a lot of bread around here. And now we are going to begin the painstaking part of making the jelly, which is separating all of the little yellow petals from the green base. Some people say that the green base can cause your dandelion jelly to become bitter. I do not personally know offhand because we separate them each time. And then I just save those little green bits and we throw those to the chickens and they gobble them all up. Now for this recipe, we need 2 cups of dandelion petals and 4 cups of water. And so we're going to get the water boiling while we continue to separate our dandelion petals from the greens. You'll see Dave realizing just how long this is going to take and the disappointment on his face.
You gotta do that whole bowl.
Remember I said it's easiest to bust them in half. Scrape them out. And then whatever's left on the edge, you just kind of... No, I have to measure them.
Well, I feel like most people don't do this on the market. Like, I just take the heads of them.
No, because the greens make it bitter.
Yeah. Well, that one was just...
And again, guys, this is the painstaking part of this recipe, is separating your petals. But just keep at it and keep going, and it is worth it in the end, I promise. You might just look as disappointed as Dave did when he realized how many dandelions we had to separate. But again, it is worth it, and we're going to keep separating these. And now that we have a full cup worth of petals, we are going to take these over to the sink, put them in a strainer, and give them a really good rinse. And then we will add them into our mason jar and keep measuring. And as things kept getting late, instead of doing that whole bowl, we ended up deciding just to settle for doing a triple batch. So we are going to fill 3 mason jars with our petals. And now that we have our jars filled, we are gonna do a little bit of tidying, wipe down these counters, keep everything nice and clean, and then we will add in our boiling water, and that is how we will make our dandelion tea. So once we add our boiling water, we will allow these to sit overnight and allow that the water to really draw out the dandelion flavor, just like you would with a regular cup of tea. So once everything's nice and clean, we will add our water. Again, going back to the recipe, we added 2 cups of petals to each jar, and then to each jar we will add 4 cups of boiling water. And then while you have a couple extra dandelions and a little bit extra boiling water, you might as well make yourself a nice cup of dandelion tea. And then we're going to put lids on these and some rings to keep that lid on there good and tight so they don't leak. And then I'm going to let these cool a little bit, put them in the refrigerator where they'll sit overnight. And that's all it takes to make your tea. And from here, we are going to get ready to start canning these. So we'll actually start turning that tea into jelly, and then we will run it through the water bath canner. So now we're going to take our tea and we are going to work on straining it. I did not have a mesh strainer big enough to fit across the width of my stock pot here, and so that made this a little bit difficult, but we'll get it done.
Need a bigger strainer or a smaller pan. But I prefer the big pan because when you make jelly, it tends to froth a little bit. And I've learned the hard way that that makes quite a mess if you don't have a tall enough pan.
And when you're straining your tea, depending upon whether you're using a mesh strainer or maybe a cheesecloth, always remember to give it either a good squeeze or push it down with a fork to get the most out of all the goodies you have to strain.
We need a chicken bucket, don't we? We need to add our 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now this is a triple batch, so we need 2, 4, 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I've always added lemon zest to my dandelion jelly. So, oops. If you do, cool. If you don't, no big deal. Everybody does it different.
You're hot.
Yeah. Also, aren't these lemons just massive?
Don't like I'll fight this part.
Hopefully that wasn't too much. I usually do the zest of 1 lemon when I make this, but those are some really big lemons, and it's pretty potent, but I don't usually make 3 batches at a time either, so hopefully that'll be alright. Alright, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Don't worry guys, this is for me. I'll add the canning safe stuff. So when you can jellies or products that require a little bit of an acid, you are supposed to add and use the bottled lemon juice. And that is because that is a 5% acidity. It's usually tested and it'll say on there someplace. 4 or 5%, I believe it's 5% acidity. And so we will dig out our bottle of lemon juice and we will use that.
Next is 1.
Oh yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4,
I want like juice.
5, 6. You want juice? Alright, Mama, get you some juice. Hold on.
That's
Juice. Alright. We strained our tea. We put our lemon juice in there. Now we need to add our Sure Jell. So this calls for 1 packet of Sure Jell per 4 cups of water. So there is, this is a triple batch.
Alright guys, so we are going to add this batch of Sure Jell, and then my camera actually ended up timing out and I didn't catch it in time. But we added the rest of our Sure Jell and now we are going to continue on. So I'm sorry that I missed that.
Now we need to measure out sugar, and hopefully we have enough. One, 2,
oh, how
3. Henry, get you. Like what's on the fridge? 4, 5,
Ow!
6, 7,
Let's go on the counter.
9. Oh boy. 10.
Slowly. That's slowly.
Almost. Came up about a 1/4 cup short. Alright, now we just have to, we're going to let this come to a rolling boil. And we're going to mix in our sugar, get our lids and our bands washed there. And we are going to do some in these regular jelly jars. And we're going to do some in these little guys because they're the perfect little gift-sized jars. And again, because we will be water bathing these for more than 10 minutes, I do not need to sterilize my jars. They are clean. They have been run through the dishwasher, or some of them are right out of the cabinet and they're clean. They've been washed. But because we're running them through the water bath canner for more than 10 minutes, we don't have to sterilize them. So that will actually happen in the canner itself. So while our stuff is coming up to a boil, I thought maybe it would be beneficial if we went over some basic canning stuff. So there are two kinds of canning. You can water bath can and you can pressure can. Pressure canning involves a pressure canner which builds up pressure inside from the steam that is built up. And the pressure canner and pressure canning is what you use when there's low acid things involved, so meats and vegetables and broths, stuff like that. Water bath canning, which is what we are doing today, is processing your foods just in boiling water. There's no pressure involved. It's just water bath. You're putting it in a bath of really hot water. And you process it. That's why your processing time is important. You have to process it long enough to heat it through to kill what it's susceptible to. Sugar tends to be a preservative as well with the water bath canning. You can water bath can things like jams, jellies, pickles, stuff that already has acid, and it's a high enough pH or low enough. I get those highs and lows and pHs mixed up. But it needs to be considered safe to run through your water bath canner. So that's just kind of a rough breakdown on pressure canning versus water bath canning and when you would use the two or wouldn't use the two. Alright, so this is not quite to a rolling boil. I will know when it's at a rolling boil because when I stir it, the bubbles won't go away. Currently, if I stir it, the bubbles dissipate. So it is not a rolling boil. We are not quite ready to add our sugar yet. And then a few years ago, I think we've been making this for 4 or 5 years now, but a few years ago, we had some that didn't set, even with using the Sure Jell or the pectin. And so I had reached out to my grandma and a couple other people about making jelly and having it set. And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy when I explained to them, you stir in your sugar and you get it dissolved and you stir it for a minute or two and then it's supposed to be ready to go. And so they said you're supposed to bring jams and jellies up to 220 degrees, which is setting point. So these last couple years, I don't exactly follow the instructions for the Sure Jell. I still add the Sure Jell because I'm looking for a safe product, but I add my Sure Jell, I add my sugar, I get my sugar dissolved, and then I run it until it hits 220 degrees. So it always feels like I'm here forever, but since I started doing that, I have not had any issues with setting whatsoever. So that's just what I do. Just because it's how I do it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. That's just my process. So So I know that this is at a rolling boil now because when I stir it, the bubbles don't dissipate. So we're going to mix in our whole bowl of sugar here. And we're going to start stirring this because we do not want anything to scorch. Burnt jelly just don't taste good. Although one of my girlfriends and I, the first time we ever made jelly together, we were making strawberry jelly, strawberry jam actually. And I felt so bad because we scorched it onto the bottom of it. She had a great big, beautiful stainless stock pot similar to this one. And we scorched it onto the bottom, and we tried all the tricks on the internet that we could find, and I don't know if she ever got it all the way off. I think at one point, the poor thing, needless to say, it's been about 5 years. I should probably just buy her another stock pot, because I honestly don't know if she ever got that cleaned off or not. So we are going to keep occasionally giving this a good stir. We are going to start using our thermometer once this returns to a boil. And we are going to bring this to 220 set point, and we are going to get it in our jars. And I'm starting to think I should probably wash a few more jars now that I see how much is in here. So we're going to let this go, and we'll be hot. Goodness. We will check back with you guys in a little bit. You guys see how beautiful that color in there? That's what we're looking at. So we're going to let that return back to a boil, and then we'll get to canning. Alright guys, so this just hit 220. I had just checked it. So I'm going to take it off the heat. We're going to get it in our jars. I might have to wash a few more lids. But we'll see. Alright, and we're going to fill these up to about 1/4 inch of headspace. We will, of course, wipe our rims before we put our lids on, because we do not want there to be any of that sticky residue. I have a hard time with gauging 1/4 inch headspace when I'm using a funnel, but we will wipe all of our rims with a warm towel before we put our lids on, because we do not want anything to get in the way of that seal. And so now we are going to put on our lids in our bands or our rings. And when we put these on, we are just going to put these on fingertip tight. We are not going to crank these on because we don't want to have lids buckle. So again, just fingertip tight. Hopefully I got my lids on tight enough that we don't have... And so now as we start loading our canner, I just wanted to remind everybody that once it's all loaded and these jars have displaced some of that water, we want that water level to be at least 1 inch over the top of the product that we have in there. And if it's not, then we will add more water.
so that it does cover about an inch over our product.
Your daughter is here. So our water bath canner just came back up to a rolling boil. So now it is safe to start our timer for 10 minutes.
And now that our timer is up, we are going to take these out of the canner and put them on the counter. And we are going to put them in a draft-free location where they can sit undisturbed for about 12 to 24 hours.
And now we'll sit and wait for that satisfying little ping.
And because of the amount of jars we had to do 2 batches, and so we're going to do the same thing with this last batch of jars. And then once my jars have sat for the amount of time they've needed to sit, I like to check my seals, and then I will actually give them a really good wash in the sink, kind of just like I'm doing dishes. I guess I just started this because if it can't hold the seal just by being washed, I probably don't really want it on my pantry shelf. And so this allows me to really make sure that these lids are sealed, and it allows me to really get any of that sticky jelly residue off so that nothing gets icky while it's sitting in the pantry, and we won't have any kind of ants or anything attracted to it.
So this is the jar we had. Didn't have quite enough jelly to fill this to the required headspace amount. And so now that this has been in the fridge for a little bit, I thought I would show you guys the nice consistency that we have. Oops. Perfect, perfectly spreadable. And it tastes like honey, guys. A little bit of a lemony hint, but we did add, as you remember, some lemon zest and some actual lemon. So try not to mind the slight mess we've got going on here. I've been trying to tidy up the whole house here, but we are going to make ourselves a little piece of bread here with some jelly. This is a loaf of our homemade sandwich bread. This is one of our favorite recipes. This is the recipe I have shared with you guys in the bread baking extravaganza video, and you should definitely try it. As you can see, it is super soft. This one's a little old, so a little on the stale side, but it's still very good. All right, I gotta have a little bit more. We're going to take some of our jelly. And there we have it, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you give this a try. It is not as intimidating as it seems. And if you guys wanted to turn this into a freezer jelly, say you're really not comfortable with canning, you could definitely turn this into a freezer jelly. I know my box of pectin had some instructions for that on there's a little sheet that comes in the box, and there were some instructions on how to make this into a freezer jelly. Not dandelion specifically, but there was instructions on how to make this into a freezer jelly. But I would imagine you would just fill it up to your desired headspace, leaving a little bit room for thawing or for expansion. Put your ring and your band on it and put it in the freezer, or you could probably even store it in glass or plastic containers if you wanted to. But this does not have to be a canned recipe. This is absolutely something that you guys could freeze or make a smaller batch and put right into the refrigerator if you would like to. But thanks so much for joining us on this fun adventure today.
We absolutely love dandelion jelly. We have been making it for a few years now. And again, this is just the recipe we use. Maybe you have found a different recipe online you'd like to try. But either way, we hope you give it a try. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to catch you guys next time.